I hereby declare the Candy County Board of Commissioners is now in session. If you all please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'd like to thank everyone for being here, as well as those people who are live streaming this or maybe watch it later down the road on YouTube. It is December 21st, 2021. And I would also want to thank you for those individuals who are watching for your interest in Candy County government. The first item on the agenda, as usual, is the approval of the bills. Any questions or comments, or entertain a motion?
I will move that we pay the bills.
A motion by Commissioner Nissen. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
A second by Commissioner Anderson. Any discussion or comments? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Next, we have the minutes. Any corrections or additions to the minutes that you all received electronically?
I'd move on to minutes, Mr. Chair.
A motion by Commissioner Emdek.
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Gardner. Any further questions or comments? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Next up on the agenda is the public hearing, but it's my understanding that that will be changed or postponed, and I'd like to call on Administrator Kleindahl to proceed with this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Board members, members of the public, we will need to schedule the public hearing for another date due to a technical difficulty we had in getting the notice posted, and legal notice posted. And so Sarah Swedberg is here today from the EDC, and she's going to give us an update on some timelines.
Okay.
Perfect.
Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning. It's nice to join you again, Commissioners. Just a quick update. So as Larry mentioned, we need to postpone this originally scheduled public hearing for the Midwest Technology Tax Abatement today. And we are proposing to reschedule it for January 18th because of reorganization that'll happen on the 4th. So the Ellers, the tax abatement consultant that we use, needed some extra time to review documents and get resolutions prepared and some different things. So everything else is on schedule. No details of the project itself or the tax abatement has changed. We just needed a little bit more time. So it would be my recommendation to reset that public hearing for 10 a.m. on January 18th.
Okay. I'd like to request board members to make a motion.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Commissioner Nissen to have a public hearing on the tax abatement for Midwest Technology Campus on
January 18th.
18th.
February?
January.
18th, yeah, at 10 a.m. And do I have a second?
I'll second
A
that.
second by Commissioner Anderson. No more questions or comments from anyone? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you very much for coming and giving us the update. Very much
Thank you, sir.
appreciated. Next on our agenda is our annual report. Mr. Hilbert, our AIS coordinator, is going to give us the report. And good morning.
Morning. Merry Christmas to you all.
Merry Christmas to you as well.
I have a couple of items today, actually. The first one is the Prevention Aid Resolution for aquatic invasive species for 2022 and the Watercraft Inspection Program plan for 2022. The resolution just kind of explains how much we're receiving for 2022 for aquatic invasive species funding, which is $246,556. That's just a small reduction in what we received for 2021 by about $700 or something. A lot of the reduction is kind of mainly due to, if other counties update their parking lots and stuff, they maybe add a couple of spots per trailer parking or something, so then it kind of reduces the overall pot for everybody. So the pot stays the same, but it's, how much each county gets a little smaller. And it just kind of explains that how the funding is to be used for the coming year, and that any carryover funds from previous years is to be spent in the same fashion as well. That resolution would require an approval and a signature. from the county board chair, if approved. And then the Watercraft inspection plan is pretty much the same as the previous years. The only thing I did differently this year is have an option to hire a couple additional inspectors, being that we were so far under budget for 2021. Try to use up some of those carryover funds so we don't build that carryover to too large of a number. So try to make the best use of it as we can. Otherwise, the lakes and accesses we're planning to inspect are the same, and the time period that we're planning to inspect, kind of mid-May to mid-September is pretty much the same as every year. So I'm still planning to operate 2 decontamination units if we can get enough people hired to run both of them again. So.
Okay. May I interrupt you? The first resolution you were requesting was resolution number 2021-49.
Yep.
And any questions about that? Why don't we address that now? And
I would make a motion.
A motion by Commissioner
Resolution
Anderson.
2021-49.
I'll second that.
And a second by Commissioner Emdak. Any questions or comments about that? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you. Please proceed.
Okay, we'll move on to the annual reporting then. The first form we have is just the standard DNR form. Looks very similar to the inspection plan. Basically just kind of shows, when our season ran, how many inspectors we had and decontamination units we ran. We only operated one because we were very short-staffed this year. It says we used 17 inspectors, but I should probably mention that one of those people lasted only one day, and then there was a couple of people that were done before the end of July, and a couple of people were hired, right before July, so I think averaged out maybe 14 or 15 inspectors. So it was tough to run even just the one decon unit. The inspection hours are probably reduced from last year quite a bit, just because we had fewer staff to be at the access, but overall the inspection rate went up, so that was probably a good thing. We were a little more efficient, I think. Did our best to kind of spread everybody around as we could, but it's kind of when you have few staff, you kind of take what you can. Just a few minor issues this year with the training system and being able to hire enough people, and just kind of a porta potty issue that we kind of had to work through. And other than that, that's kind of the basics of the standard DNR report. The second one is the metrics program, the metrics report. That's another DNR report that they ask as a voluntary one. We try to fill it out just to try to give them as much information about how every county is kind of running their program. And they kind of amend the questions a little bit year to year to kind of better capture what counties are really doing. And you can see we spent a little over $198,000 this year out of our prevention aid, and a little over $48,000 is what we were under our budget by. So that got saved back in the contingency fund, which we're planning to use some of that, additional inspectors and then additional local grant funds too. But it does kind of get into a little more detail on, how we spent the money and where the funding went, as far as, local grants and how many inspections we completed. And at the second page, the spending summary, they've kind of amended that a little bit, but it still doesn't exactly fit, kind of allow us to spread out to show a little more detail on how we do it. But that's kind of a basic description of how we spend our funding. A lot of it is in that public outreach and education, and then inspection, and then local grants, and then a few other things kind of grouped together into one category. So the third larger document is something that we kind of create just on our own, just to give a little more detail about our program. On the first page, down towards the bottom, you'll note that we do have one additional infested lake this year, unfortunately. Henderson Lake now has zebra mussels. They did find a larger adult zebra mussel, so they've probably been there for quite a while, just unseen. It's not a lake that we typically inspect just because it's lower boater activity there, so we don't typically put somebody there just to kind of sit and twiddle their thumbs a lot of the time. So on the second page, it kind of shows where we had an increase in our inspection rates, a little over two boats per hour. I probably would not, if we're able to run 2 decon units next year, I probably not anticipate it going up much higher than that, if at all, just because you have to have 2 people staffed at the decon unit. So if we have 2, there's 4 people tied up in 2 locations. So it kind of makes an impact on the inspection rate. So, but overall, you know, we're going to try to increase the amount of targeted shifts, those 4-hour shifts for like an evening or more weekend shifts, just to try to match boater activity as much as we can. You still have to have some middle of the week shifts, of course, just to kind of spread it out a little bit. But on the third page, you can see that we did catch a good number of violations this year on entering Watercraft. We're up to 230 again, so I think that trend is kind of staying pretty similar year to year. Most of it is water. I think that's, you know, you might think it's just water, what's the big deal? But it is still pretty important because there could be zebra mussel veligers in there that you aren't aware of, or there could be weed fragments, and catching that kind of prevents spreading more invasive species around. So,
Mr. Hobart, could you comment a little bit more about the water inspections? You said it's just water, but is this the water in the live wells, the water?
it could be, it's not specified where the water is. It could be either in the live well, it could be in the bilge area. It's just that there was water present on incoming watercraft somewhere. So, and typically what we try to do is if there's water in the bilge or something, we direct them away from the lake access or away from where it slopes towards the lake to drain, and then they can come back and launch then. Unless if they're willing to do a decon, we'd certainly will run them through the decon unit just to make sure it's all deconned and cleaned before they enter, and so try to pump those numbers up as well. So,
Thank you.
on the next page, just the decons, the number of decons, down slightly from 2020. I think a lot of that was due to the weather this year. We had a very good fishing opener, but after that it got cool and rainy for a while and just wasn't a lot of boater activity, and then it got hot pretty much all summer. And for safety reasons, we send the inspectors home when it hits 95. So kind of impacts the amount of decons you're able to accomplish. So didn't have a lot of issues with maintenance on it, fortunately, this year. So, and then the Century units, we're still using those. They're not really, I think, probably not doing a whole lot for us at this point yet. But these still do have the sign and an audio message that plays, so there's something at least. The lake associations, a lot of them did agree to pay half of the operational expenses, so that does help out quite a bit. So we're only paying about a little over half of those operational expenses, and they did approve that for 2022 as well. So, or at least approved to request that from them anyway. So hopefully we'll continue to go along that path, and maybe at some point we'll decide that they're just not doing what they're designed to do, and we'll move on from them. But at this point, we're still going to continue to use them. So the education outreach, it was pretty much the same as previous couple of years. Very small tweaks to the radio ads and in the gas station ads, just to get that phone number on the front of those gas stations on the ice boxes for the decon hotline, and as many of those as we can. Our independent educator, we're still working with him. He was not able to get into both schools due to COVID this year, but he was still able to get into New London. So reached about 130 students. So hopefully this coming year, we have a contract again, and hopefully he can get into both Wilmer and New London. So, and the last page is just kind of some areas where I identified that kind of what I didn't think was working as well as could be, and some areas that we can probably try to improve on. So with that, I'll happy to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioner Nissen.
I just have a couple of questions. Games and Games Lake had 6.25 and 16.67 hours for the whole summer. Is there a reason for that?
Location is part of it. Game South, speaking with the campground manager there, is not a really highly used access because it's a little more shallow. We try to focus a little more in the north, but just with the lack of inspectors in the distance away from, the center of the county, it was tough to spread more people out into that area. Big Candy was another, that's pretty far to the south. It was tough to get enough people down there too, so.
Okay, and I also noticed Long Lake at 8 hours all year, 2 different locations. That's,
Yeah,
obviously I have more interest in those lakes than some of the others because
yep.
it's in my
The
district.
Long Wilmer Northeast location is not one I scheduled for anybody. That happened to be, the lead had some time, so was able to do some inspections in his spare time and spent a couple hours there. And Bergs Beach, the south access, we try to staff, but with limited staff this year.
I'm not trying to drill you into the
No,
ground.
no, I'm just trying to explain why we staff those certain ways.
And Green Lake is getting a ton of hours, and I understand that too. But the other question I had is, I noticed in the comments toward the tail end of your report that the Sentry units haven't really accomplished very much. One case in Games Lake, I think, or something.
Yeah, I don't recall the lake, but I think there was just one violation I found. And I think they typically just do some education. I think that one-on-one interaction with the boater, if there's a violation, is pretty valuable. It's probably the most valuable thing you can do, is have that one-on-one time with them if you find something. You try to educate them to clean, drain, and dry every time they leave the lake or before they come to the lake. So it would be nice if we could catch more of those, but with those Sentry units, but it just so far hasn't been happening.
Yeah, okay. That's all.
Commissioner Anderson, you had a
Thanks, Mr. Chair. My question is about the violations. Do you think it's because they're not, they didn't know that they're supposed to do these things, like, pull out the drain plug on their boat when they leave a lake, or is it because they don't care? Have you
There's probably a
gotten any kind of
combination
a
of
read on how
factors.
that is?
I think there's a good share that people just don't know, and then there's a good share of people that are just in a hurry.
Okay.
They just want to get in and get out and go to the next thing, and they might leave late in the evening and just want to get home, and because they got other stuff going on. So,
Okay. All right, thank you.
Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To follow up on the comments from Mr. Nissen about the Sentry units, if there is such a small benefit to that, what is really the future for those units?
well, I think last year I put together a report and evaluation of the units after 5 years, and I recommended not continuing to use them. The task force voted to continue using them, but they were willing to share some of the expense. So at this point, we're still continuing to use them, and I'm hoping in the future, maybe being that it's some of their expense, they realize they're not really getting their money's worth out of it, and maybe we go towards not using those anymore, and we can use those funds towards other activities. They would like to see their local grants budget portion increase a little, and I think that'd be a good use of those funds. Because I think increasing the amount of inspectors beyond where we're kind of that 20 to 24, I think is probably a little inefficient too. And it just becomes harder to manage, and so.
Thank you.
Administrator Kleindall.
So the issue of finding seasonal workers affects not only Canada County, but a lot of people. But I think even this coming year, we're going to even have a bigger challenge. Connie Moore, the Human Resource Director, and myself are looking at what do we need for a salary for seasonal workers and try to be competitive on that. We had a good discussion yesterday, but even if we raise it above the $15 hour mark, it's still difficult to get people to want to work weekends and evenings. And that's when we need the inspectors and holidays. As Russ stated, we still will put people out there in the middle of the day to have doing some inspections, but the majority of the people that go into the lakes are early morning and after work.
When the fish are biting.
And recreational boaters and stuff, and it's really difficult to get people that want to give up their time now time is really important to our young college students. That's mainly what we had, and we have school teachers who are off during the summer that can help out. But again, they're wanting their time off as well.
Mr. Chair? Have you reached out to the lake associations to see if they would provide some volunteer help, possibly?
We used to have, Mr. Chair, we used to have Eagle Lake have some volunteers and stuff. That's just,
Waste of time.
well, it's hard to get people to do that.
Diamond Lake has asked about the volunteer program. It is difficult to do it. DNR has some restrictions with COVID now too. Then it just kind of, it makes it difficult. We had two people that wanted to do it, and one person decided going through that protocol was not worth it to him, and the other person may do it next year.
Okay, Commissioner Anderson and then Commissioner Gardner.
Yeah, I'm on that task force, and you find out all kinds of things when you're there. One of the reasons why it gets hard is you almost have to be there when the fish are biting, but the people that want to work don't want to work at those times, probably. And another issue is, in the summer when it does get hot, they're sitting in those parking lots where it's paved, and it's really hot for them, and so it gets kind of hard for them to work at those times. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I take it, Larry, that there might be some liability issues also if we use volunteers?
The DNR has a volunteer program that they'll help
do.
with the training and stuff, and so, I don't know how much liability there would be, but there, anytime you do call into somebody else's boat and stuff, there's things that could happen.
Right, thank you.
Okay. Going back to the finding employees is very difficult, as Mr. Kleindall said. I was just reading something in the paper, or in the media anyway, about a major box store in our community, and their whole chain is raising their initial salary to $18.50 an hour. And we're talking about less than that going up to and worrying about it. So at this point, I believe you would need a motion to approve your annual report?
Yep.
Okay. Do I have
I'll make the motion to approve the work plan.
a motion by Commissioner Anderson
Second.
and a second by Commissioner Gardner to approve the work plan. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously.
Russ, that's a nice report. Good job.
Thank you.
Yes, we look forward to those every year. This is good information. Interesting to see how things change and all the different kinds of issues you got to deal with.
Yep. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. At this point, I'd like to call on make sure I'm in the right
Jenny?
agenda item. Yes, Health and Human Service Director, Jenny Lippert, please. And I believe you have the annual resolution for us as well.
Yes. Good morning, Jenny Lippert, Health and Human Services Director. So I have two resolutions for you this morning. The first one is 2021-50, and this comes from the Community Health Services Act of 1976, which provides grants and subsidy funding to develop and maintain an integrated system of community health services under local administration with a system of state guidelines and standards. So what this does is it is asking for myself, Jennifer Lippert, Health and Human Services Director, to have legal signature authority for contracts, applications, reports, budgets, and expenditures, along with any state or federal grants for this upcoming 2022 year. This is something that the Minnesota Department of Health likes us to have on file just to keep our everyday business transactions flowing.
Okay.
I'll move that we adopt Resolution 2021-50.
Motion by Commissioner Nissen to move Resolution 2021-51, second by Commissioner Anderson. Any questions or comments at this point?
50 was,
50.
you said 51.
Oh, 50, okay, I'm jumping ahead. 50, okay. Any other questions? One question, the people on this, has this changed from last year at all?
So this first one, the 2021-50, is just for myself to have that
Okay.
legal authorization.
But we gave that last year too, didn't we?
Yes, yep, and then the second one I will go through next.
Sure. Any other question, comment? I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Okay, now we can get to motion number 2021-51.
Yes, so this next resolution, 2021-51, is asking for legal signature authority of some staff in my absence. So again, a large amount of reports and different signatures must be completed within a timely manner. And if I would happen to be absent or attending meetings and out of the office, I am requesting to have 3 different staff have signature authority in my place. So this asks for Jody Ammerman and also Denise Craigenbring to have legal signature authority of certain applications and programs. And then it also asks for a third one, which is Carol Tullifson, our fiscal supervisor, to have legal signature authority as well. And again, this would be for this upcoming 2022 year.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I will move passage of Resolution 2021-51.
A motion by Commissioner Gardner and a second by
I'll second that.
Commissioner Emdek. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously.
Mr. Chair, did Dwayne, on Resolution 50, was you the second?
Yes.
Just want to make sure we get that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jenny. I'll give you this later. And now I'd like to call on Public Works Director, Mr. Odens.
How you doing, Mr.
Good
Chair?
morning.
Members of the board, I've got, the first item I've got before you is a final payment for our groove striping. Just quickly, we do a edgeline white grooved in striping with federal money every year. And it's got porcelain beads in it, so when it rains, it actually improves your edgeline. It actually, the edge of the roads almost glow because of your headlights. So we've had really good luck with that. We actually, this last year, we even upped it to a little bit higher grade of a porcelain bead, and I think it's made a difference because we do get calls about how well our edge lines show up, and we work through the 3M company. But anyway, so we do every year. This year's contract was $175,000, and AAA Striping out of St. Michael, Minnesota was the contractor. And so this recommendation to you is to accept the project and authorize final payment in the amount of $1,759.39 to AAA Striping.
Do I have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Nissen to approve payment. Final payment. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
A second by Commissioner Anderson. Any further questions or comments?
Just, this is off the subject. Well, it isn't. It's exactly on target. This morning, I was driving County Road 8, picking up students, and I was having a heck of a time. So they must not have that same reflective coating on there. Hopefully, we're not paying for that.
What section of 8 were you on?
Well, from County Road 23 south to the curve, the first curve, there's several curves.
Yeah, we actually did that one this year. So,
Really?
yeah.
Boy, it was having tough. Well, it was tough this morning anyway, blowing snow and stuff.
Well, and maybe in the wintertime, good, bad, or otherwise, but it's a groove.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and so the snow would tend to be in the groove.
Okay,
But that's generally not when we have issues. It's more at night when it's raining. You can't
Yeah.
really see your.
yeah, well, like I
Edge
was
lines?
saying, it was snowing this morning and drifting, and
Yep.
I'm here, so I didn't have any trouble, but
Yep.
I had to be careful.
But you're
Yep.
jacket-
Mr.
Mr.
Anderson.
Chair, I think it is different than County Road 2. County Road 2, you kind of ground
Yep.
like a little bit of a groove.
It's about the
and
depth
paint
of
it
a
on
quarter.
there. Yeah,
Yep,
and
yep.
that really pops. And
Yep.
County Road 8, not quite the same. I mean,
Okay.
it's still a good coating, but it's a little
Okay.
different. I don't think that was ground in like that, from my recollection.
Okay. Yep. No, but it's good to hear because I do think, this year we did 47 miles. So this is all through the federal 90-10 money. So we have, 17,000 into this stuff, so.
Good discussion. Any other comments? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. And you have another request for us.
Yep. The end of the year stuff. The next one is for our seal coating. Yeah, this year we did a little over 29 miles and we added 4 because we got good bids and we have some leftover products. So we just thought we'd use up the budgeted amount. This is a preventative maintenance to seal up the top cracks and rejuvenate the top part of your asphalt. So once this is a recommendation to release the retainage of the 5%. So the contractor for this was Pearson Brothers Incorporated out of Hanover. And this project was about $400,000, $390,000. And it went really well. So my recommendation is to accept this project and authorize final payment in the amount of $19,507.57.
Do I have a motion?
Oh, so moved.
A motion by Commissioner Gardner to approve,
I'll
and a
second.
second by Commissioner Emdek. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously.
So Larry, do you want to put the overhead up quick? I didn't.
Sure. Okay, now it's coming up.
I'm sorry.
Let me zoom in.
No, actually, this might be okay right here.
Okay,
Stay right here.
I'll leave it like that.
I don't want to belabor this too long, but I do want to give you a little bit of an overview. So a year ago, we did lease agreements for some of the excess land that we were given as a result of the Wilmer Y. We were given about 130 acres. One of the parcels we had to actually cancel, which was tract number 4, which is a 12-acre piece, because they didn't get the correct access to the land. So you couldn't literally get to this parcel. This one down here, the 85-acre, 84 acres, we had fully intended to sell. But then due to maybe agreement and completion of the construction, we chose to not sell it. We were doing okay on land leases, and we think that maybe until we clean up the entire Wilmer Y, we don't want to give up something that we may need in the future. So our recommendation to the board a few months ago was to lease it for 2 more years. So the 2 pieces that we're talking about is tract 4 up here, the 12-acre piece, and then the southern piece, which is the 84-acre piece. So we're looking at 96.5 acres that we put out for land leases. Land leases were open on December 9th at the Public Works Department, and we did these for 2-year leases so that we would get back in step with the other leases, this one, and this one.
And you were looking for a motion to approve this?
Actually, yeah. Go
And
ahead.
a motion
I-
by-
I could maybe explain. So we got 7 bidders for tract 1 down here. And Mark Johnson was the high bidder in the amount of $60,648.00. And then for the tract 4 piece, Dane Colvig was the high bidder, and his amount was $3,850.00, and those are both 2-year leases. So my recommendation is accept the high bidders and execute the land lease agreements with these 2 individuals.
Okay.
I
Just to be,
would move on that, Mr.
a motion to accept, how many leases?
There'll be 2 leases for 2 years.
Okay. We got a motion by Commissioner Emdek and a second by Commissioner Nissen. Any further questions or discussion? Anyway, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. And you got one more for us.
I've got one more. This is we were approached by the DNR they had the phase 2 of the Sibley to New London trail project that the state's doing, the DNR is doing, is going so well that they actually had money left over from their phase 2 contract. and it's bonding money, and so they need to, they look for another government entity to encumber the dollars and be the banker and continue the project. So as we enter into phase 3, they were finding that the river crossing of the Middle Fork Crow River, just west of New London, the trail, that bridge box, that couple box culverts need to be extended. And so they were asking, they approached us to basically be the banker, be the project manager to extend these boxes using bonding money with the DNR. So the DNR, in order to do that, you need to do a joint powers agreement with the county board and the state. And so Administrator Larry Kleindall and I talked about it, said it seems like it makes a lot of sense. It's a continuation of the New London to Sibley State Park. If we can keep that $300,000 in the county, it's just one more step of completing this trail. So we agreed to put it on the board agenda. So we will manage the project. We will work with the DNR, and we will encumber the $300,000. And we will do one more step this summer. Our intent would be to extend those boxes this summer. It would keep the project moving, and then hopefully we can get the, we as in state, county, and whatever, get that trail extended to New London. So,
Commissioner Emdek.
Mr. Chair, I would move on Resolution 2021-55.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second by Commissioner Gardner. Administrator Kleindall.
This is, really goes to show the respect Mills Department has from the state. The DNR, for Candy County to get another $350,000 to the citizens to build trails, they know that we can handle that because of his reputation. This is a really benefit to the citizens of Candy County. And when Mel asked me about, should we bring this to board, I thought this was really a no-brainer to have it put on the agenda. This really is a benefit to the citizens. It does create work for them. We have his staff end up doing a lot of this work. And so I just want to point that out, that this is a really positive sign from the state.
Commissioner Emdek.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And this has, obviously has the support of the DNR. They wouldn't have come to Mel and us for this, but there's a very active organization over there called the Sibley State Park Improvement Association, who were very, very instrumental in getting the trail done, getting the land acquired at the northwest corner of US 71 and County Road 40, and the trail and the funds to get that portion of the trail done. And I had two members of that association approach me prior to approaching Mel, and I said, sounds like a good deal to me, but
Yeah.
I wasn't the one who had to try to figure out how to get it done. So I think it's a great deal, like you do.
Any other comments from anybody? Other than, as you stated, Mr. Kleindall, it's a no-brainer, I think, too. And thank you, Mr. Odens, for bringing this to our attention and willing to take more on your plate for the best of Candy County. And moving on this now is going to probably save us money down the road, because sooner or later we'd want to do this. So,
and it keeps the momentum of the project too, I think.
we have a motion and a second, and I'll call for the vote. If there's no other comments, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you very much. At this point, I'd like to call on Administrator Kleindall.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, members of the public, this is a very exciting time. I'm here today to present Resolution 2021-52. It's the Opiate Resolution. This is something that the state of Minnesota, the citizens of the United States have been fighting with pharmaceutical companies on the opioid addiction. Minnesota reached an opiate settlement, and therefore Candy County, along with all the other 86 counties and 30 cities with over 30,000 in population are coming before their councils and boards to agree to the settlement. And that's what I'm here for you today. The state of Minnesota has reached an agreement with the national opiate settlement. Today, what I would like to do is have you pass Resolution 52, as I stated. Also, then we'll be signing and sending to the Attorney General's office the Minnesota Memorandum of Understanding, which is about a 30-page document saying that we, as Kendrick County commissioners and citizens, agree with the state of Minnesota settlement. We then will, I then will send a distributor subdivision settlement participant to by DocuSign, and then the Janssen settlements agreement as well. So once you pass if you pass this resolution, which again, this is something we worked very hard to reach an agreement on, then I then will be asking for authority to sign those other 3 documents as well. As you know, from the conversations you've had at AMC and conversations that I have presented before the board on several different occasions, the settlement for the counties is approximately 75% counties and local units of government will get. And then the state of Minnesota and ORAC people will also be getting the other side. So 75% goes to local governments, including all counties and 33 cities. 25% will go to the state to be overseen by and distributed by the Opiate Epidemic Response Advisory Council, ORAC, as stated. And it talks about how the funds will be distributed. This enables Minnesota to maximize the resources to fight the epidemic of opiates. There have been several reports that you have heard, not only locally, but nationally, about the opiate addiction problems. You've probably seen in our newsletter, Kendrick County newsletter from our employees, that we had 3 officers just in Spicer help save a young person who was overdosed on, and they had to give that person some Narcan to save their life. So this is not just something that happens somewhere else. This happens right in our backyard. And this settlement is for 18 years. The funds will start coming once everything is signed. There's also will be legislation that will be addressed that the counties are recommending support of. The change legislation on the original opiate legislation that was Representative Dave Baker was a big part in passing. To give some flexibility for the funds to the state and to the opiate committee. So, Mr. Chair, I am recommending passage of Resolution 2021-52.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Kleindahl. I just want to comment first before I ask for a motion. For all your time, like Mr. Oden's, we are really lucky to have the leadership we have in Kennewick County with our department heads and administrator. You put a lot of hours, and would say you're quite an expert on this. And we all have heard about this before. So saying all that, thank you, Mr. Kleindahl, and I would entertain a motion for Resolution 2021-52.
Also move.
A motion by Commissioner Gardner and a second by
second.
Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Emdek?
Yeah, so I would echo what you said regarding Larry's participation. You know, at the recent AMC conference, he got a shout out for his part in this, but there's a lot of, this happened really, really fast. At our fall policy meeting in Alexandria, at the Association of Minnesota Counties board meeting, Executive Director Julie Ring brought it up, and she essentially says, we don't really need the extra work. but the board was very adamant. I made the motion that they do take the lead on this, and they put this together in a very short period of time. And last week, we heard that we were the second highest settlement in the country so far at 75%, North Carolina, and that was part of this whole thing. She brought in the person from North Carolina, as you recall, at the AMC meeting in Alex, the fall policy meeting, to present what they had done in North Carolina. And so there's a lot of the committee that Larry worked on, Representative Baker for his part in this, and really, you know, the AMC, this is something some of our colleagues around the state don't appreciate the value of the Association of Minnesota Counties. Well, this is a very direct benefit that we get from AMC. Had it not been for that, who knows where we would have ended up with this settlement. And it's not a huge amount of money, but there's also a county program aid that AMC fights for, and all kinds of other things. So it comes back to us in spades. So thank you for your work and everybody else who participated.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Emdek, and actually, the kudos should also go to you as well. It's great that our board has representation, and we all work with AMC to different degrees, but this past year, Commissioner Emdek has been quite involved, and it really pays off for our county, so thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, then I need, if you could authorize me to represent and execute the following documents. The Minnesota Memorandum of Understanding is one, the Distributor Subdivision Settlement Participation Form, number 2, and then number 3, the Jansen Subdivision Settlement Participation. And I'll send those in today if you authorize me to.
Okay, and we can do that in one motion.
So moved.
A motion by Commissioner Gardner. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
A second by Commissioner Nissen. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously.
So I just want to, one more time, I want to thank Representative Baker. He was on that committee. He and I had several conversations, and I know he worked very well with the Association of Minnesota Counties. So Kendrick County was well represented, and Dave has been a very strong champion on the opiate addiction issue. And so I really want to thank him for that.
Okay. At this point, I would like to say, are you done, Mr. Crane?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'd like to take a short break for 10 minutes. Kendall County Board of Commissioners is back in session after a short break. At this point, I would like to call on Mr. Gary Gear.
Oh,
Nope.
we're not quite there yet.
Almost.
ARP.
Oh, the
Sir.
ARP, I thought, all right, yes, ARP funding request. Mr. Kleindall, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't mind being passed over for Gary.
Yeah. I just wanted to get the, yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'm here today regarding ARPA dollars and the broadband. The broadband committee has been working really hard to try to fill in the gaps around Kendall County. As you know, we have several grants in the process and waiting to hear on that, and we still haven't heard on the border-to-border timelines. We haven't heard on the NTIA federal grants. I had a meeting with Connie Schmall and Amica County Co-op earlier this week, or was it last week already? Last week, last Friday. Anyway, I'm here before you today to do another charter spectrum request. There's an area in Doveray Township that's on 30th Avenue Northwest, and it's not in the original Doveray NTIA grant area or in the border-to-border area. And so it's kind of isolated. There's 23 homes there, and so we're trying to figure out a way to get them some broadband coverage. As I stated, Charter Spectrum is willing to put internet out there, broadband out there. It's 23 homes unserved. The total cost of the project is $136,505. Of that request, they're requesting that the county cover $56,005 of our using ARP dollars, and we would commit to that. We would do a separate agreement like we did on the other ones that we had presented to the board. Again, as for the public's knowledge, the Kendall County Board of Commissioners is committed to use up to 70 to 75% of our ARPA dollars for broadband. And so, but that doesn't mean we're not looking for other federal funds and to make those dollars go as far as possible. But we know this is a one-time shot to try to get broadband in our county areas. So, Mr. Chair, I would ask for approval to provide $56,500 in request to the Charter Spectrum for the 30th Avenue Northwest in Dover Township.
Commissioner,
I will make that motion.
a motion by Commissioner Nissen. Do I have a second?
I'll second
A
that.
second by Commissioner Anderson. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, my question is real simple. Do you know what speeds they'll have for that, or?
It has to be 100 by, we're looking at
100 down and 20 up,
25?
or 25 up? Is it,
20, yep.
okay, is that what they're gonna?
Yes, they have to do that.
Okay,
For ARPA dollars,
yeah, okay.
And did you say that was unserved now?
yes.
Okay.
Right across the road from where I live, so that's why I made the motion.
Okay, that's okay.
Gotta help the neighbors
Good.
out.
Yes. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Larry, I noticed that the charter contribution is about 59% of the total funding. Is that in line with what they've done previously under some of this?
It's a little less, but this is a more complicated area, and the houses are spread out more in how it is. And so the broadband committee for this project has agreed to recommend to go with this percentage. But as you know, Commissioner Emdike has been very consistent on the percentage and stuff, but in this situation, because of how those homes are situated, this is the only way we're going to get that area covered. If they don't cover it, most likely to reach it, it's going to be really difficult.
And I know the commissioner has been pretty insistent about that, and that's why I was asking the question if we were close on that or not. Thank you.
Good question, Commissioner Gardner. Commissioner Emdike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had the same question. And I also have a couple other questions. We were at the AMC meeting when the EDC met last time, Broadband Committee. Did this recommendation come out of that committee?
This recommendation came back late October. I didn't bring it before now. So if you go
I
back. in
don't
your-
recall that one, but.
Yeah, if you go back in your broadband minutes, you'll see that in there.
The other question, if I may continue,
Please.
is doveray Township contributing anything?
They'll be asked on that, but in order, just like we did on the other ones, if they don't cover it, we will commit to covering it if they don't. But the ask will be there, but in order to keep this project moving forward, to have a work plan, we're committing the $56,005.
Proceed, yes.
So are there any assessments to any of the houses or parcels that are being,
I do not believe so.
is it possible,
Please, yes.
is it
You've got one.
possible to find out those commitments from the townships before we enter into these agreements? I'm not very comfortable with this one as it exceeded what we've been doing in the other ones by a significant amount. Charter has put in less, we're putting in a higher percentage, and we don't know where doveray stands on this. They didn't participate, did they, in the border-to-border grant?
They will, yes, they're committed on that.
Okay.
And they're also,
This one doesn't,
they would also do an assessment to the property owners. On this one, we are not doing that.
Mr. Kleindl, I had a question. Dover Township, have any track record about contributing township dollars?
Dover Township has worked very hard in securing broadband in their township. They've had several public meetings. I've been really impressed with their commitment to broadband. Can't say enough good things about them.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair?
Please proceed.
Is there a time frame that, or is this time sensitive?
Well, they would start in April.
No, I mean for this agreement or this approval of these funds.
No. But I will just say this has been vetted several times in our committee. And this is a hole within that township. And so we would risk them backing out and then we have no one there.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
So, and I understand that Dover has some issues that are more challenging because part of the county or part of the township is already served. And I know they don't want to do a tax assessment that affects the whole county because then some would be paying for. I think it's probably true in more than one township, but it's particularly bad there. On the other townships where we have made, like in Burbank, New London, I guess it was just those two. Did those townships then agree to participate? Because
So
we
we're
passed the
covering-
same sort of,
So we did the same thing on those
Yes.
other ones. And we haven't asked, I don't know if we have a commitment from them, as of right now, but the ask is there. I don't think haven't had a formal request into them from the broadband committee, but that's our intent.
I would like to see that we have that follow-up on those requests rather than just say, if you think about it someday, let's, send us a check for part of this because we can do a lot more all over the county if we get participation from everybody. And they got ARP funds too, meaning the townships. And so I think we can't just leave it hang out there. I think we need to, whether that's the broadband committee or whoever administers the ARP funds, to get follow-up from the townships to see whether or not they're going to be participating. I think it's important.
Commissioner Endek, I agree with you 100% on that. I know initially we talked about it and several times we've talked about it. Everybody needs some skin in the game here. And I know they work hard and it's important, but I think you have a really good point that, and you've done this other times, that you probably got the commitment from them, but to have the commitment ahead of time before it comes here would be very helpful, I think, instead of coming afterwards. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Kleindall. Now I would like to call on Mr. Gear, Environmental Service Director. And you have several things for us to sign, but one major motion, I understand.
I believe that would be correct, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Gary Gear, Canada County Environmental Services Director, having the solid waste and recyclable materials collection licenses to present to you this morning. And they are just an annual renewal form that the haulers need to apply for by our ordinance requirements. And basically the only provision or stipulation within the ordinance is that they are compliant with the requirements in the ordinance, which they are. There's some annual reporting and monthly reporting requirements, and they have all met all of those. So staff would be recommending approval of the applications both for the solid waste collection transportation license and the recyclable materials collection transportation license that is presented before you.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
Also move.
A motion by Commissioner Gardner and a second
I'll second that.
by Commissioner Emdak. Any questions or comments or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Mr. Chairman.
All right. There we go. Thank you. Okay, now at this point, I would like to call Mr. Administrator Kleindall again.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. As I talked to you at the last board meeting, also in June, and also at the budget meeting, I have been talking to you about doing away with per diems and recommending that commissioners go to a salary and just forego the per diems. As I talked to you before, is I took a 5-year average of the per diems and added what they were and divided it by 5, and then I added that to the salary. Before we go there, I want to give the public a little background information about what per diems and salaries are and how it works. So currently, how it works is each year the county board sets their annual salary. They need to set it they have to set it before January 1 of each year because the salary increase cannot take place until after the start of the first of the year. So they generally have a discussion about their salary and the per diems at the final meeting in December. What happens is that each January we do community assignments. And so for any committee assignments that doesn't have to do with the regular county board duties like you're doing today, or Board of Equalization, those committees, commissioners are allowed to collect a per diem. Currently, that per diem is $80 per day. So even if you have 4 meetings, 3 meetings, whatever, per day, you only get 1 per diem. You only can collect that once per day. And so what the commissioners have to do is that they have to, on our timesheet, they put down what the meeting is for, put down what the per diem is, and then they also put down what their mileage is. Then, at the end of each month, they submit those to the Auditor Treasurer's Office. The Auditor Treasurer's Office goes through them, scans them in, reviews them, and if we see that there might be an accidental person put the wrong date in where it looked like they doubled up, we end up calling the commissioner and saying, hey, I think this is a mistake. Can you check your book? And was it the 6th or the 7th? Because you got 2 7s on here. And all it was is, oh yeah, I was supposed to do 12/6 or 12/7. The auditor, treasurers, and myself, office, we'll talk about it. Yeah, just give them a call and find out. And then each month, when you guys do your bills, then you see what the mileage and the per diems are. But your salary is stable. So everybody, right now, the salary is $31,000 some dollars, $31,380. So then what happens, so the number of committees you have is if a commissioner has 18 committees and they meet weekly, that commissioner technically would have more revenue than somebody who had 10 committees. Or say they had a committee, they're on a committee that only meets once a year. That affects that person's per diem. So not every committee has the same amount of meetings. Some committees meet monthly, some meet twice a month. Some committees have subcommittees of that committee and that you have to work on. Some committees you're assigned to and you may not meet at all. They may never get called. So when you look at a commissioner's number of committees they're on, it's all over the board. And you can't just look at it and say, oh, that person's got 22 committees and they're backed up, they're alternate for 7. You have to really look at what the number of times they have to meet on those committees. And it's complicated. And so what I would started to think about, and a lot of counties are starting to go this way, is go to a salary. I think it's going to save you as commissioners time and from the auditor, treasurers, and myself time in administrating that cost. So what I am recommending is this, that you go to an annual salary based on what the 5-year average of the per diems were. You would still get reimbursement for mileage and for your meals. And you would get, you still would be able to collect a per diem on joint powers that choose to pay you. Or if you want, as a board, you could say, no, I don't want to collect those, and I want those to go to a salary. But as we talked about last time, at the last board meeting, some really good points were made that sometimes you might go to a meeting, on a joint powers meeting or a statewide meeting, and get a per diem, and it may take you all day. So that was a good discussion. And so when I asked for some guidance, I really heard from you to say, you know what, maybe on those 4 or 5 committees those committees that pay per diem, maybe the commissioner should be allowed to collect those themselves, in addition to their regular salary that they would have. So in your packet, I gave you a list of items that you'd be able to collect mileage reimbursement for, and basically they would be, it identifies what you can receive that. So the first thing that I would ask, and then we can talk about some other options, and then we talked about each year, the options, that as we set our cost of living for our employees, my recommendation would be to keep up is that the commissioners would get that same cost of living. And so if our employees are getting a 2% cost of living, that cost of living would also be passed on to the elected officials. So questions so far? Comments?
Commissioner Anderson.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, my question is, you talked about, like if we went to extra things that are farther away, that there would be maybe something. Is there like a per diem then for like the conference that was just here in December? Is there going to be something for that? Or
No, only if they, I'm sorry, only if that say you're on a joint powers board or another board that pays you a per diem, those annual conferences, they don't offer per diems to attend.
Okay.
So I'll use an example. I'll use Prairie Lakes Detention Center. They offer a per diem in addition. The commissioner can either take their own per diem or they can take the per diem of Prairie Lakes Youth Detention Center.
Okay.
So you have a choice. I think there's 4 or 5 of those type of committees.
Just to clarify, you asked about AMC conferences and stuff, but if you're attending the conference and you attend the committee that you be assigned to, then you're eligible for
Per diem.
Yeah.
But you don't get it's not, if we go to a salary, you'd get your salary.
Yeah, right, that's included in that.
Okay.
He factored that all in, correct?
Correct. I took the 5 years of your per diem
Okay.
and took the average, and that's where I got the estimated cost before the cost of living. And I would we have a 2% cost of living in 2022, and I'd recommend that. And so if currently the salary is $31,380. If you took the average of the 5-year per diem, that's $8,249. Okay? So the total salary before the cost of living, if you made this change, the suggested new salary would be $39,630. And then we had talked about if you're the chair and vice chair, you'd get $1,000 and $500 prospectively because of the extra duties you have. There's also discussion at the last board meeting, well, what if I want to forego those dollars, could I take less committees? And that becomes a little bit more cumbersome by doing that, but that was a discussion, and so I'm just disclosing that discussion. Option 1, if you did the 2% prior to the this year's on this current salary, it'd be an additional $627. So you're not talking for the whole year. So, Mr. Chair, I'll take any questions you may have at this time.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Mdek.
I would take a stab at a motion here, and it's a little complex, and I can provide you with the wording of it if it's helpful in the end. But I would move to eliminate per diems for county commissioners and replace it with a salary. Further, I would move that the starting salary for 2022 be $39,943. This reflects a 1% increase over 2021, plus that average of the per diems going forward are $8,249.
Can you say that number again, please?
I'll give you,
Okay.
I'll give you a copy.
All right.
In fact, I could. So there'd be a 1% increase over last year.
Okay.
Then take the average of the per diems and add it to it. Okay, then where did I leave off here?
So it's 39.
So it'd be 39,943. Following this year, the increase would match what is negotiated with the staff through their union. So if it's 2% for 3 years, we get 2% for 3 years. If it's 4%, whatever it ends up being. Also, the chair and the vice chair will receive $1,000 and $500 respectively for additional duties and responsibilities. And then in addition, commissioners may accept outside per diems not covered by Kaneohe County for service on joint powers and state and national county-related boards. And finally, I would recommend that move that the commissioners receive the mileage as listed in your document there for the time. So you'd have to go back to that document to get that.
Okay, you done?
Yeah, and I could,
I followed
we
you.
could print this and disseminate to you if you want to take a look at it before we discuss it, or
Okay, we have a motion at this point?
there was
Is
a
it-
lot in there.
Yeah, we have a motion at this point. Is there a second from the commissioners?
I will second for discussion.
A second from Commissioner Gardner. Okay, questions, comments, discussion? Commissioner Gardner, Commissioner Gardner, then Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Larry, to clarify for the folks who are watching this,
Yes.
other than the 1%, essentially, this is not a raise. But it is a change perhaps for some commissioners who have had more committee assignments as opposed to others. You're simply leveling out the overall numbers, correct?
Thank you for making that point. I made that last board meeting and I forgot to make it this time. This is not, what I did is, this per diem is what you're making already. The salary, so you take what you're making already, you combine it, the per diem and the salary, you put them together, that's where I got the number. It's not an increase, except for and actually, what Commissioner Emdike is recommending is it's less than what I had put in there. A little bit. So, this time, he's asking for a little bit less.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yeah. So this here motion isn't option B. It's just a little different than option B, correct? Of the salary only option.
Mr. Chair,
Please proceed.
Commissioner Anderson's kind of looking at me because I put the motion in. The options that Administrator Kleindall sent to us are sort of an à la carte thing. You could do this one or that one or this
Right.
one or that one. And so I went through and put on my plate what I wanted in the motion. And so
Yep.
it may be right off of that or maybe a modification. And I would also like to point out that this is not initiated by any of us commissioners, to my knowledge.
It was by me.
But it was by Administrator Kleindall, who said it cleans up a lot of auditing issues for the staff.
And when you have new commissioners come on to explain what is allowable and not allowable.
And old ones.
And-
It just really, it's an administrative nightmare.
Yeah.
From auditor treasurer standpoint, from your standpoint, what you have to do to track it. And so it really cleans things up by doing it this way.
Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Larry, what have other counties been doing? Has this been something that's been trending across the state?
It is, especially in larger counties. This is a practice that we're seeing more and more of. I'll be honest, that's where I got the idea from. And when I went to some technical county administrative days, this was a discussion about this process. And it was like a light bulb coming on, like, man, this makes so much sense. And so a lot of the language that I have for the resolution, all that came from other counties.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yeah, and I would just like to say, the pay we receive, some people might go, wow, you're getting a lot of money and maybe you're getting a big raise. But if you compare it to what a lot of, like, say, other county positions are, it's less than most of the county positions. And I would say this, that most, or I'll speak just for myself. I'm not doing it for the money. I'm just doing it because I want to be here. I want to help out our county. And so my major concern with this is that the per diem, maybe it was an incentive to go to meetings because you did also get paid. Now maybe you're going to go, well, I'm getting my salary anyway. And I brought that up to you in the past too, to Larry. But I think everybody here is committed enough that we would still be going to the meetings because we want to learn more about our job and do our job as best as we can.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. I'd just like to add that I did a count of all the committees. We have approximately 70 committees, not counting the full board additional committees. I think the public often thinks these meetings that we're having right now, twice a month, is basically what we do. And it's all these other committees and behind the scenes meetings that we have, and the subcommittees of these other committees. We have a lot of meetings, and it comes together often right here. I do struggle a little bit with what you're saying is that it totally makes sense for me. On the other hand, I think part of it is that this is like, well, an extra thank you if a person has to take a bunch of extra meetings, or does have a bunch of extra meetings. And there's not I won't say incentive at all, but it's just I think it's not quite fair if somebody puts in a lot of other time. But on the other hand, as commissioners, I think we each look at this individually, that maybe sometimes you like these committees and you have the time and the energy that you want to take on extra committees. So it doesn't mean that we have to each have equal numbers, and it's hard to even them all out. Enough said by me, and Commissioner Nissen.
I just have a curiosity why 1% versus 2%, we're talking about $200 a year.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fall on my sword or what,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
I was just curious about that. And the $200 one way or the other,
Could be 0% or 2%, like,
the only reason 2% is what we're granting by contract to all of the rest of the employees in the county, so it makes, I think it's sensible to have it even across the board, but that's it's your motion if you want to change it.
Would you want a friendly amendment or anything?
But I'm just fine with your motion. And I can live without the $200.
Okay.
Just curiosity I had.
Yeah, I think it's really, everybody's done a pretty good job really stressing that we're really not looking at a major increase at all here, but just a different way of being more transparent. And we haven't talked much about this, we have in the past, that this is really to the public. They know exactly what we get instead of, and basically it's the same amount we get. We just change the way we go about it, and the public is going to be well aware of this. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair, and I think this will be my last comment on this. Regarding Commissioner Anderson's statement about whether or not, we get this and now we maybe blow off a meeting here and there. First of all, I don't see that happening with this group or any future group. I think anybody who does this job is going to take it seriously. But secondly, I do see that in the packet, the recommendation that we should, consider dividing committee assignments more or less evenly, and B, that we consider setting the expectations for meeting attendance and identify a reporting practice amongst ourselves. And then identify that activity publicly at our meetings here, both upcoming and committee meetings that have already taken place. I think that's a reasonable expectation for us to adhere to.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Emdek.
Go ahead.
And then Mr. Kendall.
thank you, Mr. Chair. And this will be my last word too, but
I'll make notes.
in formulating the motion, I wasn't able to pick out all of those different things. I think that's a very good point, and then we discuss it when we do our reorganization of committees at our first meeting next year. That we're conscious of it, and there are instances, I won't deny there are instances across the state where my colleagues have said, so-and-so doesn't attend a committee meeting, he attends 2 meetings a month, that's the 2 board meetings, that's all he ever attends. And I would hope that the voters would speak out about that if that happens. So, thank you.
So what I'm going to say is that each board meeting, we do committee reports. And if somebody doesn't attend a meeting or hasn't attended a meeting, that committee person usually calls me and says, hey, this person was supposed to be, and oftentimes it was just an oversight. They didn't know they were, when the meetings were, whatever. But I think there's some checks and balances on that. One thing I want to add is that each year you have to set your salary, okay? So if you find this year to be not to your liking after you try it in 2022, you can go back in 23 and vote to go back to salary and per diems. You have that, each future board or your decisions, you can adjust it. I would really encourage you to at least give this a try. I think this is a good management tool, and I know there's some concerns from some of you, but I would have made the recommendation if I thought it would hurt the public or yourselves.
Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously.
And so just for the record, that was Resolution 2021-53.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item. I'm calling on Mr. Thompson, County County Auditor Treasurer.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Larry's going to help me out. We're going to do the bid opening for the official newspaper of Candioi County for 2022, the official newspaper, and then we also have to have a second newspaper. So I'm just waiting for
Can I ask
Larry.
a question, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Please
These are
proceed.
just the bid, we're not, we usually move on this the first meeting and
Yep,
next.
no discussion, we're just going to get the
So
information.
just so you know, for the record, they're both sealed. I had Commissioner Anderson draw the first one, and so you do the first one to open. I'll hand it over to Mr. Thompson.
The first bid is from the West Central Tribune. I'll just read the bid. The West Central Tribune is submitting a bid to be the official newspaper of Candioi County for all legal publications in 2022. Before I continue, we plan on putting these bids in with the packet next time.
Yes.
I see people taking notes, and that's fine, but you will also get a copy of
Okay.
the bid, okay? Sorry about that. I just, like I said, I happened to see you writing down some stuff, and you can still do that, but
But we won't be getting the packets until shortly before the next board meeting.
correct.
So you can take notes.
Yep, you can take notes. You can take notes. I'll start over then.
No, you're doing fine.
Just one sentence here. Okay, so again, West Central Tribune. The West Central Tribune is submitting a bid to be the official newspaper of Candioi County for all legal publications in 2022. Their bid proposal, bid per standard advertising unit, on the first insertion is $14.15. Bid per standard advertising unit on printing the second legal notice, it's a 25% discount, and that comes to $10.61. The West Central Tribune is published in print 2 days per week, Wednesdays and Saturdays. Our paid circulation is 7,358 subscribers, or 18,395 readers. The public will also be able to read the county's public notices and legal publications in the Reminder and online on our website, their website, www.wctrib.com. The Reminder is a weekly print publication. The Reminder is a weekly print publication that is mailed to non-subscriber households of the West Central Tribune in Candioi County. By combining the Tribune, the Reminder, and our website, this provides the county nearly 100% saturation of its households. We are providing the additional coverage in the Reminder and our website at no additional cost to the county. This is included in our bid. I appreciate your past designation of the West Central Tribune as the official newspaper of Candioi County, and look forward to a continuation of this relationship in 2022. Sincerely, Steve Ammerman, publisher. The second,
Oh, that's just the
That's
I
just
thought
the
you
old
gave me
bid.
the-
the second bid we have is from Lakes Area Review, which is located in New London. Following is our bid for legal publication of the annual financial statement, delinquent tax lists, all legal public notices, and all legal publications for 2022. Standard advertising unit rate for the first printing is $10.50. Standard advertising unit rate for the second and any additional printing, repeats, is $10.50. Discount allowed after 1,290 Standard advertising unit inches printed is 12%, which comes to $9.24 for the first printing and $9.24 for any repeats. Discount allowed after $11,610 expended. There is a 12% discount, which comes to $9.24 for the first printing and $9.24 for repeats. The standard advertised unit rate for any additional notices ordered by Candioi County, as per your bid notice, $10.50 for the first printing and $10.50 for additional printings. If successful, the Lakes Area Review will furnish a $1,000 printer's bond. The Lakes Area Review freely circulates over 6,600 newspapers each week, including every address in New London and Spicer towns and routes. Wilmer Route 4, Pennock Rural Route, and Sunburg Rural Route. Meaning for these citizens of Candioi County, there is no charge to receive county minutes or legal notices. We also serve paid subscribers in Wilmer and other Candioi County communities for a yearly fee of just $40. Anyone outside of our free distribution area who wishes to receive the county minutes and legal notices can do so for a fraction of the cost in comparison to the subscription rate of other newspapers. Thank you very much for your consideration. Sincerely, Ted Almain, Lakes Area Review, Ted Almain, publisher, Lakes Area Review. And those are the only two bids we received.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thompson. And we will be addressing the newspaper bids, or media bids at our next meeting. All right, now I'd like to,
Chair?
yes, please proceed, Mr. Emdek.
Is this open for any kind of questions or discussion?
I don't believe that that's what we're going to do next time, I think. This is just opening the bids. Because that way we'll have more information to discuss it.
Okay, my
We have a
question
chance to look
for the West Central Tribune, then I'll hold the other ones at bay, but was there an increase over last year? He usually tells us that.
I do not know. I can get that information to you. Did I mean, we have a copy of last year's bid. I just don't.
I
didn't have it with me.
could go look at the last.
Okay, you want
I
to do
could
that?
go on the
Larry?
board. I could go.
Sure.
But I think this information would be fine to have this next meeting, I would assume. Would it not?
As we have the minutes, I can go
Yeah,
back.
unless you want to make a decision or think about it before, that's what.
Right, that's the point of having a
Okay.
discussion now, is we get it 2 weeks to
Mr. Chair, if you just go ahead and go to the next item, I can come back, we can reconvene on this year item. I can see if I get the price.
if we're not gonna have further discussion on it, if that's the only thing, it's, we can wait.
Because we have it would be in the board minutes from January.
But I'm talking about an increase from last year to this.
I know,
year.
but you would,
We'd have to do quite a bit of analysis to, well, maybe not on that first $14.50 or whatever, but.
Well, if that's your wishes, the board,
I'll do
you
what
want to, I'd be happy to ask Mr. Kleindell to do that. I would, from both of them, then the information as if they've changed.
I'll just grab the minutes.
Okay,
there's
but
no-
it's going to be in the
I don't
packet
see any
too.
harm in getting that information.
Pardon me?
Well, that's fine. I think, I agree that he can look that up right now, and
Okay.
I don't think, though, that it calls for discussion. right
Exactly.
now.
I agree.
Mr. Chair, my point is that if we discuss it next time, we're gonna be making decisions without really having a lot of opportunity to go home and think these things over and
Mr. Chair,
do
I
some
have that
hand
information.
scratching.
Please
So
proceed,
just,
Mr. Kleindell.
so December 15th of 20, the Lakes Area Review bids was $10.50 per SAU for the first insert and $10.50 per SAU for any repeat ads without charge. The West Central Tribune bid at $14.15 per SAU for the first insert and $10.61 per SAU for any repeat charge.
So basically, you're saying neither increase the rates.
I just
I
read
didn't write
it.
down, Mark, can you answer that question?
I would say it's the same. Because
The same.
They are the same.
Yeah,
Bids are laying there, I guess.
It's 1450 and 1061 and then 1050, 1050.
It's the same.
yeah.
But I thought I heard 1415.
It was 14.
The set for last year?
Yeah,
That's what I thought I heard too, but me.
so it went from
Larry, what was it last
1415 to
year?
1450.
Okay, I heard different. Okay, good clarification.
I wrote 1415 this year.
14.15,
And then this year is 1450.
and this year is 14.50.
Oh, I didn't hear that right.
That's what I thought I
Yeah,
heard.
that's not what I heard.
Oh, no.
I didn't hear that either.
And I'm the one that the hard hearing.
Ears are still plugged from my national.
Correction, Roger, correction. Mr.
Okay.
Chair, we have a
Please
correction here.
proceed.
Last year, the bid from West Central Tribune was $14.15 on the first insertion.
Correct. And then
And the 2021, what I just read today,
Or
was
20
$14.15 also.
Right.
Oh,
So they're the same,
All right.
14.15.
Thank you.
that's what I thought.
All right. Okay, thank you.
There we go.
Any further questions on the opening of the bids? All right. Mr. Thompson, please proceed with the next item.
So the next, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, the next item I have, you should have received the agreement between Tribune Systems and MCCC for the IFS software. IFS stands for Integrated Financial System. It's our financial accounting. It's also the accounting that the Family Services Department uses. Again, MCCC actually owns, maybe I'll back up just a little bit. We actually receive support from CPT, and Raleigh's on the board of CPT. They support all of our tax programs. If we have any issues with IFS, we call them too. They know enough about it to help us out with any issues we might have. MCCC, and to go along with that, Raleigh may understand this better, but we belong to Midstate Co-op, which is a joint powers board. Correct me if I'm wrong, Raleigh, Commissioner Nissen, but I believe there's 29 or 30 counties that belong
That is correct.
to that association. MCCC is another joint powers. Most of their counties are in the cities, and they are the biggest joint powers in the state. Like I said, we have 30 counties, which is very significant also. Anyway, MCCC owns the IFS software. They have an agreement with Tribune Systems, who actually developed the software for them. So this agreement is between Tribune and MCCC. We kind of piggyback off that. As you can see, the agreement between Tribune and MCCC was signed and agreed to. What they wanted from us, MCCC wants us to, they want a board ratification, meaning that we accept, we pay MCCC so much a year, and I think those dollars were included in the packet. And MCCC, this ratification basically is saying that we agree that we're going to be paying, we agreed to use this IFS software for, I believe, 3 years is what it was. I'm sure it's 3 years.
It's the backbone of our accounting system.
Yes. Yeah, it's from January 31 of 2022 through, I believe it's 24, so that's 22, 23, 24, yes. So, that's what I'm here today. It's just, I need to ask you for a board ratification of the agreement between Tribune and MCCC.
Okay. We have a request for a motion. Commissioner Gardner.
I'll move that.
Commissioner Gardner moves. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And a second by Commissioner Anderson. Any further discussion, comments? Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mark, it looks like the dollars involved are just a little under $12,000 for the year. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
11,905.
Yep. And as you can see, 5,320 is for the auditor treasurer department. 6,585 is for the family service department.
And that seems, in the IT world, like a pretty reasonable sum for this type of support for an enterprise of over 400 employees, so.
Yeah. Getting back to that page, I had mentioned we belong to actually Mid-State Co-op. You can see which other counties are in Mid-State Co-op, MSCC. And all those MSCC counties actually look to CPT. And Raleigh, Commissioner Nissen's on the board at CPT. He knows how that all works, how that organization
Giving me
works.
too much credit.
Excuse me. But anyway, yeah, we just kind of piggyback off MCCC. They actually own the software. They have Tribune who supports it, does any upgrades, and then basically that's what this is all about. They want to make sure that we will remain with the IFS system for 3 years.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. It was a little complicated to explain. At this point, I'm going to suggest we take a 5-minute break, and we'll be back here in 5 minutes.
Relaxed.
Kendrick County Board of Commissioners is back in session after a short 5-minute break. At this point, I would like to call on Connie Mort, Kendrick County Human Resource Director. And you have a resolution for us as well, I understand.
Yes, I do. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
In front of you, you should have had in your packet the resolution 2021-54. This is part of the process of exiting from the merit system that we've talked about in prior board meetings, and we talked about it actually a year ago because we had to give them a 1-year notice. And so coming up on the end of that year, this is the last step in looking at getting out of the merit system and having our own personnel committee. So this is the resolution where we would adopt the Personnel Act as listed under Minnesota statutes that are referenced in the resolution as well.
Okay. Thank you. You all have a copy of that. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Second that.
I'll
Motion
move
by
passage
Commissioner,
of resolution
Gardner,
2021-54.
And a second for resolution 2021-54. Any questions or comments? My only comment is that the merit system's been around forever and was so highly valued at one time. Just kind of grieving to see it go, but it sounded like the right thing to do. And
I'm not grieving.
You're not, no. But it's just such a history. I'm at this point then going to call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you very much for bringing this forward.
Thank you.
Okay. At this point, I'd like to call on Kendall County Sheriff, Mr. Holeen.
No.
He's going to go out of the order.
Yeah, I'm going to jump around.
Oh, you're-
Everybody was okay with it, so since
okay.
you've been sitting here for a long time.
Oh, that's fine. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
What I got here is
It
an
is.
amendment to our food service agreement with what is Summit Foods. It used to be Avent Foods back when we first contracted them in January of 2006. What you'll see is there is what they call a consumer price index increase of 4.7%, and I actually checked that this morning just to see what it is based against the national average. Right now, that's 5.78 for the national. So as far as budgetary purposes, we always try to plan for this increase, even though it lands outside our normal budgeting process for us, which looks like will be good for this year, but next year, with these continued increases, we'll have to make that adjustment going forward. So they're looking to make that effective January 1st. So they're looking at that 4.7% increase, which we received in your packets. If you got any questions, I'll take those now.
Any questions,
Mr. Chair,
comments?
I move on the agreement, but I do have a question.
Okay, a motion to move on the agreement by Commissioner Emdek.
I'll second that.
A second by Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Emdek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sheriff, is that, do they come to us with this every year, or is this good for a few years, or how does this?
They will come every year. So far, it's been that they will come with this increase.
I was going to say it might be hard to predict.
It is very hard.
More
to
than a
predict.
couple years in advance at
Like
this point.
this year, it took a huge increase, and just within the last months, we saw almost a 1% increase.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? We have a motion and a second. I'm going to call for the vote then. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously.
I'll leave this with you to sign.
Sure.
If you can send this.
Sure. You want to get going?
Perfect.
Yes.
Thanks, Eric.
There we go. Okay, thank you very much. And next, I want to call on Ms. Hopp, a water resource specialist, to talk about our butterflies. I have to say, this is one of the most positive things that we have to talk about often. It's a good way to kind of start to finish up the day this way.
Were you going to speak?
Only if I'm asked.
Oh,
He doesn't know anything anymore.
okay, yeah. Why don't you start out and we can see if he wants to.
Good
comment
afternoon.
As well. Okay, please proceed.
So you have your map was part of the packet, and I included that so you knew where I had done my monitoring for 2021, which was the northwest area. So we are doing the higher level of monitoring. You also have the scorecard that I used. So there is a tier 1 and a tier 2, and I'm using the tier 2, which is also to look at other pollinators as well as other flowering species and take account of those as well. Now we have to submit our annual report by the end of January based off of the reporting or the STEM counts. I always call it crop scouting or ditch scouting really, but it's STEM counts of milkweeds. Not really sure what questions you might have on this. I did do an average, if you're wondering, the averages of the different items here as far as the flowering nectar, plant covers, the additional habitat resources. Due to the droughty conditions, I know it sounds weird because you feel like the weeds always grow even though it's dry. There really was a significant decrease, I believe, in the plants in the right-of-way. We had a couple of areas that had absolutely no flowering plants or milkweeds of any kind. And so I did make a call out to the university to discuss that because I didn't want that to be an issue down the road. And since we have 3 years to come into compliance, she said, that's just fine. Thanks for letting me know. And when you do your annual report, be sure to notate that on there so we're aware of that.
Okay.
Okay?
Commissioner Emdek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is it a good time to ask you a question, Angelica?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if I'm understanding you right, we'll be able to do sort of a baseline monitoring of these routes to see what, if anything, we have to do to augment the milkweed, right?
Correct.
And that's part of what you did last year, which was made difficult by the dry conditions.
Correct.
But what did you see when you went out there?
What did I see?
Yeah, is there milkweed in abundance or?
There is in some areas. So like in the bottom right-hand corner is abundance of milkweeds. So I think it's 30 square feet is what we measured is the sampling area. So we measured that and then did our STEM counts in there. So Chris Broughton from Public Works went with me and he and I did it together. There were some areas, like I said, there were 2 sites that had nothing. We had another site that had 26. So some of it was stunted. Some of it I wasn't sure was going to actually be able to flower or, seed. But it was amazing. Once you're out there and you're walking around, it's not just seeing the plants from the road. You're looking for the smaller ones as well. So it was interesting. I learned a lot. I truly did. So did I answer your question?
Yeah. I'm kind of curious. What is the recommended or desired level of milkweed stems per square foot or whatever you use here for your?
6 to 10 would be where we'd like to be at. And actually, the average of the 10 sites that we did, we were at 6.9.
Good.
Even with the 2 that had nothing. But the one that had 26 definitely helped bring it up. But
If I may continue.
Please proceed.
And I'm guessing if we reduce the mowing, then there will be some propagation too, because you'll allow the seed heads to spread seed.
so in those areas that we sampled, the only part that was mowed was the top line.
Okay, all right. So then it would be moot.
Yes, and we did not use that as part of our square footage for our sampling area.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? You want to proceed, or that's your report? Do you need a motion to approve or just an update? Okay.
We don't need a
Commissioner
motion.
Anderson.
Yeah, so my question then would be, while you were out there, you pretty much just did STEM counts. Did you notice any monarch butterflies or caterpillars or cocoons or anything? Just out of curiosity.
Now, that was the part that was not so great.
Okay.
We saw some other butterflies. So if you, on the second page of the scorecard, We did see some dragonflies, some moths, you know, but we were out there from June 30th to July 7th.
Okay.
It was dry, as we all know. So
Otherwise, my kids, they collect them too, and they raise them into butterflies. And this year we raised 30 into butterflies. So it was I finally told them, you got to quit, because we were doing caterpillar chores every day for a while. So it usually ended up
You've
being
just
me.
become soft.
Yeah. So I'm kind of surprised that you said low, because I mean, we were flooded with caterpillars. So
Well, thanks for the update, Commissioner Anderson. And Commissioner Gardner, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Angela, I would kind of expect that time that you were out in the field might have been actually a little early for any of the caterpillars to be
present.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm just wondering if that's especially last year with the drought and everything. I remember I barely saw a monarch until probably mid-July last year, and we run up the Little Crow Trail quite a bit during the summer. So I always keep my eyes out for that. I did have a question, and either one of you can answer it. Are we looking at doing anything else, either inside or outside of this program, to augment some milkweed or other pollinator habitat? Any other potential grants that are out there, or anything like that, programs for trial projects, that type of thing?
Mr. Chair, right now, the program is trying to limit it to road right-of-way and power line transmission right-of-way. And that would be another phase of the program to enter into more of a public-private partnership concept. And so this is the first full year that basically people are in the program. And so we've got 3 years to be completely up to speed, if you will, and do all your monitoring. But they feel that the only way that this is going to be successful is to ultimately do what you're just asking and get it into the schools, get it into the ag community, get it into the public. In case of Kendall County, we had a lot of public support. So I know that there's public support there to transfer the obligation, if you will, to what Commissioner Anderson's doing. I mean, maybe when we get to zone 3, it'll up all the averages, right? Because of those 30 caterpillars.
There you go.
Get them each to double their production next year.
Well, and there are other groups out there. DNR is doing some stuff, I understand. And I was just wondering, the Soil and Water, are they doing some?
I believe that they're working with people that are interested. I don't think I don't believe it kind of gets credit for this program that we're in.
Oh, right.
And I foresee the county always being in it, okay? But I think what it would amount to is that you could expand it, okay? I don't think, because our commitment right now is 5% of our acreage on our roadway network of right-of-way. So we have about 200 acres adopted. We have all our road right-of-way enrolled, but we only need 5%. So we have around 200 acres adopted that they go around and count. So as far as financial impact, we do it, slower times or off times, so it's not a huge financial impact, but there's some. I mean.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from anybody? Commissioner Emdek.
Did I read recently where they have delayed or pushed back 1 year any requirements for this, like you have to do with the brown-eared bats? What do you call that? Cultural assessment or something? Resource, yeah.
Mr. Chair, yes, they did, but I know there's a strong push to get it listed as endangered. It qualifies as being an endangered species, but it's been delayed. So with the right vote of any government body, it could be considered an endangered species, and then we're really glad that we're in this program.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Anything else? I guess not. At this point, thank you for the update. This is a great time of the year to talk about butterflies.
Yeah.
And a very positive thing to end our major part of our agenda. So thank you for coming forward and both of you
Thank you.
for what you're doing. It's a good service. At this point, I'd like to call on Kendrick County Administrator, Mr. Kleindall. And you have one more thing for us.
Yeah, as part of my ministerial report, I want to ask the board permission to submit a letter to Representative Fishbach. And what we're asking, and she's a sponsor of the bill, so I don't think this is going to be an issue, but this is for the ARP funds. And basically, the Senate has already passed it, but any entity that received less than $10 million in ARPA funds, they're waiving. This bill would waive some of the reporting requirements, would allow us some flexibility of how you can do it and what you can do with reporting. You'd still have to maintain and follow the general guidelines under ARPA, but it provides reporting flexibility. And so the letter says, on behalf of the residents of Kendrick County, I respectfully urge you to immediately pass the bipartisan state, local, and tribal and territorial fiscal recovery, infrastructure, and disaster relief flexibility act, Senate File 3011 and House File 5735, which will assist us in recovering from the devastating effects of COVID-19 within our communities. And it goes on to say that Kendall County is working swiftly to invest our recovery funds in the infrastructure as well as COVID-19 mitigation. And so we're just asking for the House to pick up this bill. It was passed in the Senate already by 100 votes. And so that doesn't happen.
No.
And so, I don't see this as being held up. It just got to have a hearing to get to the House. So is it okay, permission to submit this letter?
Is like a motion for
Yes.
that then?
Could I-
Okay.
Because you would need to sign it.
Okay.
Could I ask one question? Would it be more effective if we had all commissioners sign it? Would that be okay, or?
What I have on behalf of the Kendrick County Board of Commissioners, George Corky Board, Kendrick County Board Chair. We can have all sign it. Right now, I have him
We have a
representing all of you.
I think it would be more effective.
Always
if we
more
all signed
powerful
it,
to have.
Okay.
in my opinion.
I can,
Logistically, can she get at the?
yes, we'll get it signed.
Okay.
If you're listening, we'll get
Okay,
it. She
all
can
right.
put it all.
Okay, I'll make that motion with the, that we sign this letter, but all the commissioners.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Anderson. Is there a second?
I'll second
A
that.
second by Commissioner Amdek. Any further discussion or comment? NACO is really working hard on this, I understand, and AMC have they promoted this much at all? I haven't noticed.
Oh, yeah, yep.
They have been, okay. And so it's important that we get our letter in the mail too, and the more we do, as you said, Commissioner Nissen. So we have a motion and a second. No other discussion. I'll vote. I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you for bringing that forward.
And Commissioner Anderson, you also can go on her
Commissioner
site, Commissioner Fishbach's site, and you can do a email encouraging her to pass this along, but she is an author now, co-author.
Definitely in our best interest.
Yes. One other thing I just want to report, I'll be sending a letter on behalf of Kendrick County, letting that we support the development of Glacier Lake Trails Extension and the Transportation Alternative Grant. That's an application that's being submitted for Phase 1. This is a trail extension. This proposed trail extension will ultimately provide users of the Glacier Lakes Trail an access to the city of Paynesville from the north, as well as access to Lake Cronus Recreational Trail. So it basically, even though this is in Stearns County, but hopefully someday our trail hooks up through there, and we have a connecting trail from New London eventually all the way to St. Cloud.
Commissioner Amdek.
So is the trail completed, it's just not paved, or is part of it not the Glacier Lakes Trail?
part of it is not paved and part of it's not the Great Lakes Trail.
So it's
Both.
still owned and operated by the railroad or whomever?
I don't know if it, that would be, MinDOT's probably got it now, don't they?
I believe it's considered the Glacial Lakes Trail. I just know there's sections of it that are not paved.
I just drove through it last week one day, so why isn't this paved?
Right.
It makes no sense.
For bikers and everybody else, yeah. So anyway, just so you know, I'll be submitting that. We have a lot of information going on regarding COVID-19. On Friday night, the 6th District, OSHA, the courts reaffirmed that the federal OSHA can be enforced. Don't know any other details, but that. Be watching it. Minnesota has not responded what they're going to be doing, so that's another thing that we'll be watching. That could have an impact or may have an impact on us because we have over 100 employees. At this time, I have nothing else to report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kleindahl. At this point then, anybody else got anything for your calendars at all to share? Otherwise, I'll ask for committee reports. Okay, at this point, Commissioner Emdek, would you please go first?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to cover the usual meetings that we go to, like Prairie Woods Environment. There was nothing of huge impact there. But one of the things that came out of, so Ryan Erdman, as you know, is with the Association of Minnesota Counties. He sent out an email notifying us about a tribal county workshop that's going to be in Grand Casino, Hinckley, February 2nd and 3rd, I believe it is. And this is kind of an important meeting, even though we don't have tribes in our county. There's something called ICWA. It's the Indian Child Welfare Act that affects where placement can be made when kids go, of Native Americans go out of their homes. And so it does affect all the counties. Occasionally we have some, and I'd really encourage if somebody is interested in this subject to consider attending that conference in Hinckley on February 2nd and 3rd. And then Mel and I were at the Minnesota Transportation Alliance last Thursday. Was last Thursday?
Yep.
Yeah, last Thursday. And boy, there was a lot to unpack there. I mean, it was about 5 hours of listening to all the different opportunities, and there's a lot of them. And I think we're in maybe Mel can speak to this better than I can, but there's going to be a lot of different opportunities from trails to water to roads to whatever. And being ready for it is going to be really critically important. I don't have anything in addition, so if you don't mind, just in case I miss something, Mel could tag on to what I'm saying, and then I'll rest.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, they gave, what they did is they rolled out, nothing's funded yet or appropriated. So what they had the 9 separate departments explain what every one of their departments do, from transit to safety to buses to bridges to, and then we broke up into small groups, and then we had to list out things that they could do to improve these programs, as well as things they could add to expand it, because the money that's coming in is going to be, some of it's, for the most part, just expanding current programs and not adding new programs. So for instance, like bridges, you could, like in my wheelhouse, you could do more bridges, or you could do more trails, or you could do more electric vehicle charging stations. So there's this infrastructure package that's going to add on to current work that's being done, safety projects. So if you're doing a preservation project, there's normally, if it's a preservation project like an overlay, they can't expand the volume of the road or the capacity of the road. Well, now you can add turn lanes, and they just went through a lot of concerns that we have as local entities to help guide, when Minnesota gets the money, the applications and the eligible work. So it was critical that we were there to voice the rural part of Minnesota's concerns and not just slanted toward any one entity.
And just they is who, Mel?
What's that?
Who is they?
Well, it would.
Mostly MnDOT.
Mostly, right, because they had the offices that regulate the dollars there. And quite honestly, they're looking for feedback. I mean, is our existing system working? Or if it's not, can we, what would you do to add as a local agency in western Minnesota? So it seems like maybe crazy to go to some of these things, but, I was the clerk in our committee, so I was able to write a few things down and get our voice out there for Kennewick County
thank you.
and this area.
Thank you. Commissioner Anderson.
Okay, yeah, so since our last county board meeting, we had the AMC conferences. I only made it to one day because I came down with pneumonia. But that was Monday that I was attending meetings, and since I was coughing, I decided I better get tested for COVID, which I was negative, but I did have pneumonia, and they said I better take it easy, so I went home. But I did attend a few of the meetings. One was the environmental and natural resources meetings, and in there we discussed things like survey markers, was a remonumentation of basically corner posts or whatever for section lines. It was kind of an interesting conversation I had with them. They basically, our county had been done about 1856, 1857, and then I've also talked with Dwayne Bonema about it, and he said we're in the process of finding survey markers, and I think Mel Odens is well aware of that too, and it just kind of an interesting thing that you have these historical markers, basically, is what they've become, and they're like an oak chunk or whatever that's been burnt, and then it's preserved basically when it was burnt, because then they stick it in the ground, and hopefully someday we find them and can actually make a little better record of where they are. Sure. So, and then the other thing, I did miss a CCT meeting. I think it was either the 9th or 10th of December because I was still sick. And then last week, I attended one of the first meetings for South Fork of the Crow River, One Watershed, One Plan. That was down in Glencoe, Minnesota, and we're just kind of getting started on that. I think our next meeting is going to maybe be in February sometime. And then I also attended Pioneer Land Library. It was kind of executive finance meeting. That was last Thursday, and that was basically just approving bills and financial statement, looking at that sort of thing. So that was about it.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Nissen.
Well, I had, after the AMC, had 4 or 5 meetings since then. First one, just a Kennewick County Historical Society. Since I'm the chair there, we met and set our budget for next year. I don't know, I think we were pretty much the same as last year on the Kennewick County Historical Society budget. 2020 Housing met that same day, and they're looking, this is probably the biggest point of discussion was we did a housing study a number of years ago. That thing is getting outdated, and we are going to look into getting a grant to do a new housing study for specifically the city, I suspect, but workforce housing, a lot of other things, dilapidated neighborhoods. So that's what we talked about there. Woodland Centers, we had a meeting, and we're doing hybrids. So I was at the meeting. Their financial situation is the income is down and the expenses are up, and part of that is due to a compensation study we did, and we've had to increase some salaries. We've also had to increase some salaries to find workers, and all of that is pretty important. And then the COVID, of course, has cut into our income side because people weren't showing up for appointments, that kind of thing. So that was that. West Central Industries, their financials look very good, partly because of the PPP and some of the money that came through the system to help us through the COVID. So they're a lot better off than they were 2 years ago in terms of cash. Of course, some of that's going to go for remodeling and things like that, but that's all I had for this month.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Nissen. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, like everybody else besides the AMC conference, a couple of highlights of the month: Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services Joint Powers Board, where we received the most current audit. And again, as has been the case for, probably close to a couple of decades at least now, a fully clean, unqualified audit at this point in time. Had the board meeting for the Humane Society of Candiota and Meeker Counties, where we have worked up the budget for the following year, and that will be voted on at the annual meeting, which will be held at the Candiota County Historical Society on the 27th of next month. And if anybody's interested in the work that the Humane Society is doing, I'd encourage your attendance there. I appreciate what my friend Commissioner Nissen had to say about the Vision 2040 housing study. I would encourage that group to look at expanding that across the entire county. Vision 2040 is a countywide effort, and I would hope that we look at that. It's really my hope that we start having some countywide conversations about housing and what next to do, and hopefully we can start bringing government units, local nonprofits, developers together, and start having some real conversations about what we do about affordable housing. We're on the precipice of a crisis in that regard. And if we're going to be bringing in, for example, 500 jobs into the county, I'd like to know where A, people are going to live, and B, I'd like to know who's going to take care of their children. Just as we have a housing crisis, we have a child care crisis as well in our county, and I really want to encourage my friends here to begin thinking about what that might look like over the next 1 to 3 years moving forward. What is it that we can do with all of our different community partners and agencies to have a high impact on that? And finally, looking forward to accompanying Mr. Kleindl on open mic tomorrow.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Commissioner Gardner.
You're welcome.
Thank you. It'd have been on my calendar.
Actually, though, if I understand right, they're playing music, Christmas music all week, and you guys will be taped, and there's no phone calls. So and they're going to replay it the next week afterwards. So, okay, I'll go last. And at this, I had a community transit special board meeting with the 3 county joint powers, and we talked about the buses and getting those ordered. But the main purpose of the meeting was to look at shortage of employees, drivers. It was really hard to find them, as we all know, and we've had this conversation before, and employee retention. We did vote to have a small salary increase at this point, and explored many other options that we're working on as far as employee retention, and to make it more friendly place to work, and we keep people there. Also had a law library meeting, and Mark, you would be happy that we're coming in pretty close to budget. And this next year, though, might be another question. We'll see, as the revenue does change, with the courts and what's happening. And that was a good meeting, and our next meeting is next February, I believe, and we're going to be looking at elections at that time. I had a Prairie Lakes Youth Program. You kind of heard what they're doing in Prairie Lakes, but we also spent a lot of time talking about employees again, and employee retention. And there's been a turnover in employees. People are changing jobs nowadays, and we got some new employees coming on and some new department heads. So we're excited about that, and covered really quite a bit. And then there was Commissioner Gardner and myself, we attended the Elevate graduation from the EDC on Friday, and they had 7 graduates, and it was just a great program and a great partnership for our community to see those things happen. And Shelby was there too, and it was a very positive thing for our community. And that's the extent for that. Just to finish up, just to remind everybody, as you all know already, our next meeting is going to be the reorganizational meeting and looking at committees. And I have a feeling that's going to change, maybe to some degree more so than last time. On one hand, it may not change a whole lot. You know, it's a recommendation that you try to hang on to a committee for at least 2 years to kind of get to know it. Somebody mentioned to me that it almost takes a year to figure out where the bathrooms are sometimes. And that's an exaggeration, a big one. But it takes a while to get the feel of the committees and what's involved. And also, I think most of us have certain committees that we're involved in that, for example, the CCT, you're the chair for 2 years. And so this makes sense that person would stay on that committee. And there's other good reason to it. I did try to explore a couple of ideas, you know, what could we do different in committee assignments other than going through each one individually and maybe do about 5 of them and then vote on those 5 and discuss and negotiate who gets what committee at that time. But we can do that again. The county board's been doing it for 150 years, and most of the other counties are doing it the same way. But it's going to probably be a longer meeting, partly because of that. One option I did look at, and I got some feedback from a couple people, one board member and then another, one other person, about maybe if we could all list our committees that we have. And your first 5 committees would be those committees that you see that, well, it's important that I be on this because I'm the chair for next year or this type of thing. And that we could vote on those first 5 that everybody has, but it still would be negotiable. But it would be less asking or less rationale to switch those committees. And we could just vote on those 5 from everybody and we'd have 25 already taken off the board. And then go to the next 5 you have down on your list. And then we could be even more negotiations about those, and then whatever's left to try to even things out. But again, you know, people can keep more committees if they wish. You know, that's an option too. But just prepare you and be sure you bring your calendars and go through the list of your committees that you currently have and what you're thinking about being willing to give up. Like I said, there's about 70 committees, and at this point, I think one person has about 19. A couple have 12, and the other 2 got 14 or something like that. So most of the committees are pretty close to an average number. One person has a lot of committees, and the question is, does he wish to keep them or not? So, and how many of them? Because a lot of these committees, like I said, are really crucial. And I'm going on, and Mr. Kleindl said to keep it short, so I'm going to keep it short. But you were supposed to kick me.
Too late.
Okay.
Shelby was going to throw something at you.
Yeah, you want to go home and it's lunchtime.
I just got one thing.
Oh.
I just want to wish everybody happy holidays. This has been a big year, and I want to thank our staff, our employees, for everything they've done. I think we've provided great services to the citizens of Kendrick County. So thank you for everything that you do. Thank you, commissioners, for being a good board, allowing your staff to do their jobs without micromanaging. And so I wish you and your families the very best.
And you as well.
Thank you, and we can echo that same feeling. And I hereby adjourn the meeting.